Welcome back to the HOC News. I've got a special report for you here today. Not very often do I do this, but today we're going to go into some predictions. Now, I'm going to tell you right up front, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't read tarot cards. I don't know, God doesn't speak to me directly and tell me what's going to happen in the future. But what I do know is I have an internet connection, and for years and years, I've been going and researching the plans for the Death Star. And we're not going to go into the minutia on what those plans actually are. You can go do your own research, just as I did, and look up like Agenda 21, Agenda 2030, the Bilderberg Group, Klaus Schwab and his, what's his group called? I'm drawing a blank right now. The WEF and all this, right? So there are just tons and tons, the Rockefeller Foundation, the Rockefellers themselves. I mean, just on and on and on. George Soros and his influence in bringing down multiple countries around the world. It now looks like George Soros is directing his money toward doing the exact same thing that he's done in many other countries right here in the United States of America. So these are my predictions for 2023 and further into the future. So the headline here is 2023 predictions. The collapse of everything. SHTF is here. And if you don't feel it by now, then I'm not going to be able to reach you. You probably got like pudding in your brains or something, just like Biden. So go vote for him. Go vote for people that, are like you and are going to make you feel good in the short term. Meanwhile, they're robbing you and your children of our future. So let's get into these predictions. Number one prediction, the economy. The U.S. economy will continue to collapse. This is being done by design, intentionally. I predict that many of your favorite restaurants will close in the future. The Bidenflation has caused restaurants to charge double or triple the price of on your favorite meal. So whatever that is. I happen to like Alice Springs chicken over at Outback Steakhouse. And the last time I bought it, I said, this will be the last time that I ever buy this. And my wife checked out a book from the library about like your favorite meals from, fancy restaurants or whatever, things like that. Not saying that Outback is super fancy. It used to be back in the day, but now on today's standards, it's not super fancy. But the point is that a piece of chicken with some bacon and some cheese on top of it was like over $20 last time I went there. And I said, that's it. This will be the last time I do that. And I guarantee you, I'm not alone out there. Let me know down in the comments, guys, how many of you pass those restaurants by that you used to love to eat at, but now you just won't do it because you're not going to pay like $15 for a cheeseburger. So many people are now cooking at home to save money, and I think that trend is going to continue to go on and on in the future. So I advise you, go out and get some recipe books. Learn how to cook your favorite meals from these restaurants. It's not that hard to do. It might take you more time than a traditional meal to make it up just your first couple of times, but you'll get the hang of it, right? So that's a way you can save yourself right now tons of money. There's nothing that McDonald's makes that you can't make 10 times better at your own house. So the manufacturing industries across the board will be reducing staff, and this has already started. We did one a little while back about the, I can't remember if it was aluminum or steel, but it was a big foundry that made I think it was aluminum, that made almost all the aluminum for the United States. And they said it's because of the unbelievably high energy prices that they're having to pay. So they were laying off 600 people, and I don't have that story in front of me, so I'm just kind of going off memory there, but that was really recent news. And if you're one of those 600 people, I guarantee you right now you're scrambling. SHTF is here for you if you've just been fired, or if you can't afford to pay your rent because your landlord has jacked the rent up to some price that's just freaking unbelievable. So just went through this with my daughter, and she actually had to go buy a house, and it was terrible. I wish she'd have timed it out a little better, but she bought a house here just recently, right after the interest rate, went up a little bit. So that's unfortunate. I wish she'd have gone a little sooner, but she got the thing done. And the reason they had to do that, her and her boyfriend had to buy a house, was because the rent for the place that they were staying in was going up to like $1,500 or $1,700. So, I mean, a substantial increase in rent. And I get it, these people want to make their money, but it's certainly not helping people that are usually the people in the renting class. They're getting their feet wet, they're getting established. They don't have a lot of extra money. So this is really hurting people that rent homes and rent properties and things like that. So, and it's all being done by design, as I said. Farmers will continue to be plagued by high fuel prices, high fertilizer prices, and also limited availability of fertilizers and things like that. and government regulations. I just saw a video a couple of days ago about this Amish guy. What was it? One of their alphabet agencies went over and shut this Amish guy down because they didn't want him selling meat. It wasn't going through the USDA or something, or maybe it was milk, I don't remember. But they're raiding Amish people. That ought to tell you something right there about the direction that the bureaucrats, Biden's personal army, Obama's army that he talked about. Back when Obama was in power, he talked about having like he called it a police force, I believe he said, that was just as capable as the U.S. military. And it was going to be like something like 200,000 members strong. Well, I think that what they've done is they've figured out they don't have to bring new people in necessarily. They'll just use their bureaucracies. They'll use the FBI. They'll use the new 87,000 IRS agents that they're bringing in. So farmers are going to continue to pay the price. That's going to drive the food prices to all-time highs. They're already at all-time highs, so this is like a no-brainer. Clearly, it's going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. So I advise you, if you've got any money right now, stock up now because you may not be able to afford that food in the future. So buy the essential things that you need. Get rid of anything that's, extras. Maybe if you're big into going to the movies and stuff like that, don't go to the movies anymore. If you have a bunch of cable and all this, cut your cable and save your money and put it towards food and other things that you're going to need to survive in this future. Shortages and starvation will surely follow, and at some point only the very rich will be able to afford the rising food prices. And I think we're getting really, really close to that. That actually might be achieved by the end of 2022. It may not take until 2023 for that one to come true. So next up here, energy sector. Energy prices have already skyrocketed under Biden's Green New Deal plan to destroy America. In the future, we will see those costs soar even higher. The ability to do the most basic things like travel to another state or even driving to work will be very expensive. And they're already getting more and more expensive, but these things will be extremely expensive. You won't be able to go out at a certain point because you just can't afford the fuel. I think $10 a gallon gas prices is still coming in 2023. And I know it's come back down some. But they're doing everything they can right now, tapping into the strategic oil reserves and sending that over to China and doing all kinds of stuff that in the past we would have looked at this as traitorous actions. But now there is no accountability for anyone that's in office anymore. Once they get in, they do whatever they want. No accountability, no repercussions for them, unless you're Trump. And then they send the FBI in to raid your mansion or whatever. So in the future, your ability to heat and cool your home will be severely restricted by the price per kilowatt hour, or maybe we can look at that in terms of what you pay for your natural gas or your propane or your heating oils or your firewood or things like that. That stuff's going to continue to skyrocket. There is no end in sight. The sky is the limit on this stuff. They are trying to price us out of existence. This is part of the NWO's plan to take over the world and rule you. The days of cheap, reliable sources of energy are over, thanks to Biden and the NWO Agenda 2030. Look it up. If you don't believe me, go look it up yourself. Next up here, supply chain shortages and disruptions. We're going to continue to see more and more of this stuff. And the sad thing is that if we had good leadership, they could have got ahead of this stuff and stopped a lot of these things before they happened, stopped them cold in their tracks. But Biden did nothing. He sat on his hands while those shipping containers were sitting out there off the coast of California and couldn't be unloaded. That would have been a perfect time to bring in like the National Guard to help get us through that emergency situation. Did Biden do any of that stuff? No, because he wants this to happen. Product availability will continue to worsen. It'll be less and less and less until there's eventually none. As China, Taiwan, Russia, Ukraine continues to fester, the U.S. will feel the pain coming in this winter and fall. I think it's going to be a long fall when it happens. Perhaps 2023 will be the dark winter that Brandon was talking about, like last year or in the what was that, 2020 or 2021 when he started talking about the dark winter. The U.S. is now dependent on the world economy for its most vital resources, such as grains, fertilizers, oil, precious metals, and cheap Chinese goods. When the rug is pulled out from underneath us, it will be swift and devastating. Many people aren't going to be prepared for that because they haven't been thinking about this stuff. They've been lost in the bread and circus that is the United States. They watch sports or they watch movies or they watch the Kardashians or something else that's not going to help their life in any way, shape, or form. But they're drunk on that stuff like a drug. It really is like a drug. You know, perhaps future Americans will recognize this problem and produce essential goods here in the USA, but I highly doubt it. I mean, that's one thing you can see. The globalists and the New World Order has such a deep control. They have their claws sunk so deeply into the citizens of the United States and the world that it's not very likely that we're ever going to do anything to buck the system. It just seems like to me that most people are just accepting everything, and they're just like, well, that's just the way it is, blah, blah, blah. Well, it'll get better. It ain't the end of the world. I don't know what you have to see, what different signs you have to see to recognize that they're building a Death Star. They're building a death cult to install us in. And if you don't want to be installed in that death cult, then they'll just kill you out in the parking lot or behind the building or whatever. So next up here, and this is pretty obvious, it's already going on right now, crime wave. As the middle class and even the poor folks get pushed further and further down the economic rabbit hole, they will inevitably lash out at the people they assign the blame to. So think about that for a second. Eventually, you know, you can only push people so far, and then eventually they come with their pitchforks. So I don't know, I'm not saying or calling for any of that stuff. I'm just saying that from my research, learning about history, you can only push people so far, and then suddenly you have like either an American style or a French style revolution. So many of these people, as they're falling out of economic grace and falling further and further down, so I expect robberies, break-ins, and theft will continue to skyrocket under FJB's design collapse. And that's what this is. The people in charge will do nothing to stop it, just like they did nothing to stop the riots of 2020. Just like they never do anything to stop any of this stuff, to get out ahead of it. Like I said a minute ago, they didn't do anything to stop the supply chain problems when all those shipping containers were sitting out off the coast of California. Instead, they've done more and more things to use the EPA and their other alphabet agencies to make it even worse. That's what they always do. It gets worse. Murder, rape, and other violent crimes will continue to rise as people will feel like they have nothing left to lose. Eventually, these people, even good people you know right now, are going to get pushed to a breaking point. And when they hit that breaking point, some of them aren't going to have any problem turning to crime. Others will be more resistant of that. But, you know, I mean, you want to see somebody that's not a thief become a thief, make them watch their family starving. That'll make you go out and steal some fruit, steal some, chicken eggs from the neighbor, whatever. I mean, it might start out small, but then, you know how that goes. It's a slippery slope. Once you do one thing, it's not so hard to do the next thing, right? So I expect, along with all this bad stuff that's going to happen, there's going to be a severe decline in like morality and civility, the way you treat your neighbors, the way you treat other people, right? It just makes sense that as things get worse and worse, people are going to pull inward. They're going to, keep everything in the family. They're going to keep their secrets to themselves just because they don't want to be a victim. They're going to fortify. They're going to do smart things to their home to make sure that it's not easy for someone to kick their door in at 3 a.m. There are things you can do. We've actually made a video on that in the past about not really fortifying, but just beefing up your door hinges and your door locks and different things like that to make your house a harder target. So I know what you're thinking. Many people are saying this all the time. But wait, the midterms are going to save us, right? I mean, the Republicans are going to come in and it's going to be a red wave and they're going to win and they're going to be able to stop Biden in his tracks, right? I mean, I would like that. That would be great. But the realist in me is saying, no, I've seen this before. If the midterms go off without a hitch and the Republicans take control of the legislative branch, there is a possibility to slow or stop Biden's globalist agenda. Unfortunately, I can only look to the past failures of the Republicans as an example of why you shouldn't put very much faith in them. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. They sit on their hands when they have power. They sit on their hands. Or a great example of that is just think back to all the never Trumpers that helped to get us in this whole mess we're in right now. I mean, if it weren't for the never Trumpers, when Trump came in 2016, the Republicans could have made some real strides to stop this globalism. But the real secret is many of these rhinos are in bed with the globalists. They don't want to stop it. That would cut off their money supply. So that makes no sense to them. So what does that leave us with here? Well, if everything I'm saying here plays out the way it looks like it's going to play out, it's going to lead us to what they're going to call a Marxist liberal utopia. So at some point, a massive global population reduction will happen, and this is what they want. These NWO Agenda 21 2030 plans were set into motion decades ago. Perhaps it will be global famine or another man-made disease, that leaks out of the lab or whatever, or civil war or World War III or total complete nuclear annihilation, etc., etc. Under their plan, you will own nothing and you will be happy. You will eat the bugs, even if your Bible says it's an abomination. If you're not falling in line with the NWO agenda, they'll send you to a FEMA re-education camp. No problem. They got places to send you. They're going to send you in there and get you a good re-education where it won't be based on liberty and freedom and, the right to pursue happiness. No. It'll be based on the globalist Agenda 21 2030. The plan to enslave humanity. That's what this is. This is the Death Star. In this liberal utopia, nothing is sacred, not even human life. At some point, you'll find out Soylent Green is made from people. And what will you do then? That's a genuine question. What will you do then? We've heard the talks here recently. I've even done a video blip about it here recently about how they're openly pushing for like human cannibalism. They're talking about, oh, maybe cannibalism is not that bad of an idea. And that's right now in 2022. Can you imagine what these people are going to do once we hit the wall and there's real food shortages caused by their policies? They're going to try to figure out some way. If the bugs aren't enough, if they can't get their bug factories to put enough bugs in your food, then they're going to have to figure out some way to feed people. And there's going to be a whole lot of dead bodies around from their plans playing out. So it only makes sense to turn that into something that's unrecognizable as human meat. The great example is the movie Soylent Green. They had to go to the factory to figure out what that was. And remember, Soylent Green took place in a future dystopian scene from 2022. So I don't know if it's real or not, but I'm just saying the way they're talking, that could happen. So my advice to everyone out there that's still listening to this video, resist tyranny. Even the smallest amount of tyranny will lead to something much, much worse. It'll lead to your enslavement. The time to resist tyranny is upon us now. The way you do that is through peaceful non-compliance. That's the only way to stop this that I'm aware of. Local elections, grassroots, freedom candidates, calling your congressman and being involved in local politics is the only way to stop the NWO from achieving their goals. Get involved while you can, while you're still allowed to. Call your congressman, call your senators and representatives, tell them how you feel about these NWO plans and ask them what they feel about them. Because if they're not paying attention to them or if they're unwilling to even mention these plans, that tells you something about the people that are in that office, right? I mean, it's to the point we need constitutional, conservative, or libertarian-minded people to take the reins on this country. And if we don't, this whole experiment in freedom and liberty is over. And that saddens me. I mean, we feel it. We feel it all around us every day. It's crumbling. It's crumbling down, and no one is doing a damn thing to stop it. It seems like they're doing more and more to throw fuel on the fire instead of trying to put the fire out, right? So, guys, let me know what you're thinking about these predictions. Am I wrong? Did I miss anything? Are there other predictions that I overlooked that you want to add down in the comments? I always love reading them. God save the Republic. We're in deep, deep, deep doo-doo, guys. It's up to us to resist tyranny. Peaceful non-compliance. When they're trying to tell you and get you to do things that you know are wrong and unconstitutional, you have to stand up against these tyrants. It's the only way. I can't stress that enough. Appreciate you guys stopping by. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing to the channel. We always like it when new people come in and comment and subscribe on our videos, so don't be shy. Please come in there, let us know what you're thinking, and God bless you. God bless the United States of America for as long as it lasts. I stand for liberty. I hope you do too. We'll see you next time.